questions you have.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
great.
Yeah, we're here to help.
Okay.
We're about to kick off the first episode of a new live podcast for Wall Street Bets.
Nice.
Um,
Oh, sweet.
and,
Amazing.
So we're
and we are going to
VIPs.
be doing this every Wednesday to address all of the current topics, subjects, areas of concern, excitement, confusion, enthusiasm, all of those things. So we're here.
That'll be great. That'll be good.
Yeah.
Back to good old days. I love it.
Back to the good old days of straight up communication. Yeah, I would love to kick off by introducing myself to those of you whom I haven't met before. My name is Venus DeMille, and I'm hosting this podcast on behalf of Wall Street Bets. Um, a little background, I came into this community through a sort of previous experience in blockchain and a lot of exploration of blockchain technology on the larger spectrum, which inevitably led me to crypto, which inevitably led me here. And it's something I'm deeply passionate about as a landscape, as the future, and as it relates to this community and the impact that this community has on what happens next in blockchain. Um, so today we're going to have an hour-long program. We're going to introduce some new information, announce some new things, address the yield farming 2.0, all the things that come with that. And we're going to have Jamie and BTC Vix on the program, as well as Baby Yoda to add a little bit more depth and definition to those subjects. And we're going to end the program with a Q&A with the community so that you guys have a chance to, ask questions and get your questions answered. This is hopefully going to be a very fluid and ongoing process in terms of, whatever your takeaways are from this, whatever your questions are after this that you have, please feel free to, share them with us so that we can study them and incorporate them into next week's program. But for now, I want to also give a little bit of background to why I chose this project as a project to focus on in terms of its community factor. I was here for the launch of Wall Street Bets. I'm an investor in this project. As are all of you, and have sort of been along for this journey so far, and have had a lot of interaction with the leadership, the marketing, the management, all the people working behind the scenes of this. And the reason why I'm choosing to not just endorse this project, but to also hopefully participate in the success of it is that I think this project is unique and that it has just such incredible potential in this space. It's very distinct from your average project in the BSC space, not just in terms of its ambition and its vision, but just in its faculty and in the scope of its community. So I think everyone who's here should just feel incredibly confident that invested in something that has so many incredible people behind the scenes working this hard to make something good, and not just a quick in and out pump and dump typical BSC landscape kind of project. I find the team on this to be incredibly professional. I'm increasingly impressed to discover the depths and the layers of what's going on behind the curtain. And I know not all of that is always getting communicated to the front lines, but I just want to sort of advocate for saying that there's a real business here and there's a real operation here that is I think heads and shoulders above most of what's happening in this arena. And and I also want the community of this project to feel deeply empowered in terms of the size of this community, the scope of this community, and the way that you guys are positioned in the land of centralized finance. I think that Wall Street Bets has the ability to make a huge impact on this space. But as we know, any project that has a community component or a governance token at its center is just as dependent on its community as the community is on its leadership. And I'm hoping that I can help to sort of, bridge that gap and create more of an integration between what's happening behind the scenes and what's happening on the front lines as far as the community goes. And I think what's also really interesting about this is, this is the sort of OG community of Wsbdapp, but it's not done growing. And I think that, as more and more people in the general population around the world, get turned on to crypto and turned on to blockchain and begin looking for projects that they can find as a sort of, the gateway drug to what crypto is. I think this is really a perfect first port of call. And I love that this project has the opportunity to essentially prepare people for the journey they're about to have even deeper into the forest of DeFi, and hopefully can act as as an anchor and as a safe harbor and a sort of port in the storm, knowing how volatile this landscape is and how volatile the market itself is. And, obviously it moves in cycles. And, I think having a place that you can always return to, knowing that you'll have community there, knowing that you'll have leadership, knowing that there will be this ongoing sort of educational aspect that will make everyone here a better investor, a better trader, a better hodler, is really, really unique. And I think we're all lucky for this. So a little quick sort of like dust off of project background. I think, those of you who've been through the beginning and those of you who have come into the mix understand that this project is unique and that it has a high profile that precedes its launch as a token project. With that comes a lot of high stakes and high expectations. And, I think that's what makes it so promising in the long run. I think everyone here should feel confident that they have sort of aped into something good. And we're now at this point where we have to build it. And, we're coming off this roller coaster week in crypto. I'm not sure who had the joys of riding that to the bottom and back, but it was definitely not a boring week for anyone connected to their portfolios. It was certainly, there were certainly a lot of factors at play that have not been there for previous cycles. And I think there's a lot of, there's a lot of insight we can add to that depending on how interested people are to understand, what's new to this. But, the short version is there's a lot of big players in crypto that weren't there in the last cycle. There's a lot of institutional finance. There's a lot of government. There are a lot of whales, and with that comes, certain market manipulations that haven't been there in the past. And I think it's something that I want to address on a sort of weekly basis. We're not going to cover it all today. Is how, as an investor, you can start to recognize the difference between when the market is just, in some sort of an unmeasured free for all versus when it's actually in a manipulation cycle that's going to end, so that you can get out in front of that and anticipate what comes next and actually, be that smart money in the mix that's making good decisions and not having to get sort of, taken along for the ride. But it's a very different landscape than it was in the last cycle. It's an incredibly different landscape than it was 7 or 8 years ago. So just knowing what the factors are there that are contributing to this journey that we're all on, and knowing how to get out in front of those, I think is going to be a really valuable advantage that this group has. And on top of that, I think what we'll also start to cover and address are, things about this token project specifically, so that we're all experts in our own investment. Some aspects of that will deal with price action in terms of how are we looking at this chart and how do we understand what to predict next. Price action is generally composed of 4 different factors. It's going to be a market cap factor, a volume factor, a community engagement, an organic growth factor, and also the consistent marketing and hype that's built around that project. Those are generally the 4 cornerstones of what makes projects like this succeed. And I think the more that we can sort of focus in on those, the more we have an ability to drive the price action of this project, to drive the charts through the community. And I also want to highlight the things that make Wsbdapp abnormally unique and actually have an incredible value proposition for any investor. The first being that this is a governance token, which is really kind of one of the better tokens you can be involved in. It's one step beyond a utility token in that it gives everyone in the community an ability to vote and influence the outcome of the project. The second thing that's huge on this that most projects don't have is yield farming. Some of you are already participating in that. Some of you are about to participate in it for the first time. But the yields on this project are extraordinarily high and incredibly beneficial. And there are really only a handful of projects in this space that offer what this is offering. And the easiest way to look at that is passive income. There are some new things being introduced today, which we'll talk about with Jamie and BTC VIX, which are a new product of single-sided staking, meaning you don't have to pair your token with another token to enter an LP pool. You'll be able to just stake your WSB tokens to earn a yield. And also something that everyone here is quite familiar with, which is the ETP token, which is coming up. There's going to be on-chain voting at the end of the week. The ETP is launching Sunday. There's a lot of exciting information around that. And again, that's something that we'll get into a little bit more deeply with Jamie, BTC VIX, and Baby Yoda. So in terms of project updates, there have been a lot of things going on behind the scenes, which you guys have probably seen, whether that's various influencer activations or Jamie doing some broadcast interviews. There's daily growth in terms of active users and wallet holders. There's marketing activations in the works. A lot of this is all going to be built around the launch of these new products that are coming out this week. And there are a lot of people working behind the scenes that we're going to introduce slowly over the course of these podcasts, so that everybody has a sense of how many people are behind the scenes working, who they are, what they're bringing to the table. I know there's always a deep curiosity about the dev team, but this is, there's an incredible dev team on this, but also an incredible leadership team, an incredible marketing team. There's so many different strategists and entities involved that I think it's only going to serve to inspire everybody's confidence around, how robust of a project this really is. So now I'm going to see if Jamie and BTC VIX are available to join us anytime soon. Let's see if they're in the chat so we can begin this dialogue.
I'm here already.
Oh, fabulous. Right on time. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How's it going, Jamie?
Going very well, thank you. Very well. Excited to do this new farming.
Yeah, awesome. So tell us a little bit about your take on Farming 2.0 and what this means for the project on the whole.
So I can speak to this on two perspectives, on the macro and on the micro, right? So on the micro, I think a lot of people that are new or newish to this space are going to relate with me very well, because that's also me in this demographic. For people that may not know, I've followed crypto for, whatever, since it started, but I never was actively involved. My strengths were in equities and stock options and things that trade on New York stock exchanges. And I'm fascinated. I mean, I keep telling people, I spoke to somebody that's writing a book about kind of new tendencies of investors or whatever. And I made a point to him to not ignore crypto, because I made that mistake, and I urged him not to do it as well. It's going to be, it's a matter of months, well, maybe years, but before companies actually go public using the blockchain. So I think it's just insanely awesome. So more specifically to your question, the farming is great, right? Like the first round of farming took me a lot of learning, a lot of clicking, a lot of frustration, because it's just all these concepts are new to me. And I think that people can probably relate to that. But I got through it, right? Like I probably lost a ton of money from going back and forth and back and forth, not really understanding, but also trying to play with it a little bit, right? To try and get the right strategy. I understand that if you have certain types of pairs. If you can have this impermanent loss based off of how the coins behave. The price appreciates or goes up or down. So here I am just trying to turn this into a game that I can win, and I lost. It's fair to say that I lost that game, but eventually the winning strategy was to just leave it there, just stop touching it, and that actually really worked in my favor. So I'm kicking myself for not doing it the first time. This farming 2.0, what it means for me, and then I'll switch over to what it means to the project. Much easier. I know that some people are having difficulties right now. My brother's literally messaging me as we speak. Because he got an error message. So I'm guessing it's because everyone's just jumping in at once and is probably just overloading the server. So there's people looking into that. But outside of that, it was really easy. And I only did the single stake farming. I just clicked on the stake my money and I put it all in there, and I'm leaving it all in there. I'm not even worried about anything else because that's my winning strategy at this point. What does this mean for the project? Now I'm going to take off my newbie hat and put on more of a macro hat. There's a lot of things, right? This token was it's pretty new of its kind, and it's new in the sense that it's bridging Wall Street and crypto together, which is why I'm super excited to be here, and it's the only reason why I accepted wanting to be a part of this project. I've turned down a gazillion of these things before, and continue to do so. I keep getting messages to try and be a part, but this one's different because it's obvious that Wall Street and crypto will merge. We have the synthetic stocks trading on the blockchain. You have futures for crypto trading on the CBOE. You have I can go on and on about where things are headed, but these things are merging, and super excited to be at the forefront. So the way that this thing gets launched is first release the token, and everybody can buy the token and kind of get used to the interface, do a little bit of farming, right? The next phase is we heard everybody's feedback as far as their experiences with the first round of farming, and the team is super receptive. They listened to it. They've implemented a ton of changes, probably a lot that are above my pay grade, and it's timed around the fact that we're going to start putting this utility to work, right? You called it a governance token because you get to vote and participate and be a part of this organization. I call it utility. I like the word utility because it's just from an economic perspective, it means that it creates value. Mm-hmm. And so that starts this week as well, right? And it's going to start with all the rounds of marketing. We have a fair amount of groundwork laid out. We have a lot of progress done with regards to getting listed on various exchanges and getting all the legal opinions and getting all this stuff that needs to take place behind the scenes. And it's all moving around beautifully. And if I can just finish my long answer by saying, I'm glad we're past this whole rug pulling thing. I'd never heard of the term rug pull until last month. Yeah. And I had to Google it. I literally had to look it up because I didn't know what it meant. And I haven't seen anybody bring that up anymore. So I'm glad that's over. And I anticipated that would be the case, right? As long as we continue doing what we wanted to and we keep delivering on our promises, people quickly realize that this is actually the real deal.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely right. And I think what's also, just to speak to your experience, which I'm sure, many here have experienced, is like the first 2 months that you're getting into crypto, just the process of setting up your accounts and figuring out how to use MetaMask and all of that. You kind of invest a lot of money in that education, meaning money that sometimes gets lost in the process. I certainly had that in my first couple months of figuring out this landscape, and there are a million things I would have done differently had I to do it all over again. But what I wish for myself, what I wish for anyone that's new to this, is that someone would have led me directly to a project that had yield farming, because it's like there's no better way to make up the losses that you've just incurred through your own sort of naivete than to find something that is actually delivering a return and providing a certain kind of security that's not often found in this space. So I think, we can all relate to the sort of foibles of figuring it out.
No, and I'll be honest with you. Like the reason why I lost money wasn't because I was screwing it up. Like unlike with regular stocks where you can do what's called the fat finger, and you can do that still with crypto, but it's just I can see how it's much more common with a broker. You click sell instead of buy or whatever. With this thing, it just feels a little more solid. You can't really screw it up. My problem was I was thinking about this as trying to trade the charts and the dips and whatever, and it was being overly active. Just it was difficult for me to shave off my previous understanding when I see prices moving around. And you're absolutely right. The winning strategy with this is a completely different one. Is hey, you're just making money, right? And you can invest. What do you call it? To compound it. You can take it out. You can do whatever. And it does offer that security that is very, very. Somebody asked me on Twitter because I retweeted some stats last time around when we started farming. They're like, this all looks great, but I don't know what it means. Can you Eli 5? Like explain it like I'm 5? So I said, yeah, just buy some coins, click a bunch of buttons, and then I get a lot of free coins, right? And that's literally what you're doing. You click a few times, you get more.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is also interesting when you obviously have a lot of background in the traditional stock market and traditional finance, and I find you've crossed over, you've made it to the other side. Many still haven't, but I still have conversations with friends in that world who say, God, I found this thing that gives you a 12% return, and I'm like, and you try to explain to them what's available to them in decentralized finance, and they literally don't believe you. Like they're like, it's not possible. You're not going to find something that does that. No, it's actually it's not just possible, but it's almost becoming the status quo. So yeah, and I think what would also be interesting to know is with your understanding of the traditional stock market, how closely do you think it relates to the crypto market? If you had to say, here's where it correlates, here's where it's an intuitive, seamless transition versus here's where it's a completely different ball game.
So there's two ways to answer that. The first one is it's identical, right? Like, prices that go up and down based off of supply and demand. That's just the way it works. Chart formations have a reason as to what they do. There's technical explanations for them, but when you look at a chart, those predictable shapes that you start seeing are there for a reason, and that reason translates across both the stock market and crypto and to trading bananas with your friends, right? Like it's just a fact of life. So in that sense, it's identical. And in the sense of this particular coin, because I might lose people because it's technical. You have some trading that deals with like order books and the way you get filled, and you have people doing the bidding and asking and get these spreads and blah blah blah. That stuff I haven't encountered it yet with Wsbdapp because we're using these decentralized pools, and so there's an analogous feel to that, which comes in the form of what they're calling here slippage. They use that term slightly different than what I'm used to, but the net effect is the same. It's just if you buy a whole lot, you're going to push the price up, basically, right?
Right.
And that's also dependent on how many people are in the pool, meaning the liquidity. It's more sensitive to price when fewer people are in it, blah blah blah. So even though on a technical standpoint it's different a little bit, the feel of it is the exact same thing. So prices moving up and down is the exact same thing. Being able to buy and sell, it's the exact same thing. And and it's starting to blur the lines. If you can imagine soon when you have an ETP that we're going to mint that's going to have some stocks and some crypto, that chart is going to be comprised of the underlying values, right? And so that will take whatever the chart of the real stock market is, and it'll translate it back.
Right.
Hey, BTC Vix here. Just wanted to step in on some of the people having issues with migrating over to V2. Just some pointers. Make sure when you unstake and then restake, for some reason it doesn't like I don't know, 8 decimal places or whatever it is. So I just try and use a round number, and then just make sure you up your gas fee, or sorry, your gas limit. I used 400,000, I think is what it is. Yep. And that sounds like a lot, but I ended up paying $1. So Not really a big deal. I just want to make sure that people's getting a lot of rejection on the default setting right now, just because so many people are migrating over.
Okay, that's helpful. That's super helpful. Thank you. And keep jumping back if you're seeing more questions.
Yeah, I was just trying to get chat managed a little bit there. Certainly, we planned this at an interesting time, probably a good time and a bad time, because people are trying to make the migration. They're running into issues and kind of panicking a little bit. But
Okay.
really, it's just two simple things, and I've already pinned the message in the text chat to make sure that people use round numbers and up their gas limit.
Okay, great. And anyone who's on the call who's friends with people in the community, please share the information in this chat as much as you can and sort of support each other in the processes. I think that will go a long way. And we also have is Baby Yoda with us?
Hey there.
Hello.
Hi. Just been listening to awesome intro and Jamie's soothing voice and calm presence despite the chaos.
So today's a big day for Wall Street Bets, and there's obviously there's a big activation happening, and while the technical details are getting worked out in the background, and hopefully more people will sort of tune in to get the sort of solutions that they need. I'd love if you could just give the audience a sweeping overview of what yield farming 2.0 means, just from a practical standpoint, in terms of what they should be aware of, what they should enact at this moment, what some of the new features are of this 2.0 iteration, which are quite exciting. And we will from there, move on to also talking about the ETP as well.
Sure. Okay. We're really excited because this Farming 2.0 launch is really all the features that people have been asking for. With the first Farming 1.0, people wanted single staking, so we definitely added single staking, and not only just WSB, but they'll soon be able to single stake BNB and BUSD. The other piece of Farming 2.0 that's really awesome is this auto compounding feature. So if you're on the farm.wsbdapp.com page right now, and if you go to V2, you can just toggle over. There's this giant green button that means claim rewards. And this just made it so much easier for people to, if they wanted to exit the pool or if they wanted to kind of re-add the pool, we wanted to make it really simple for people. And if you recall in V1, part of the process actually required people to go to PancakeSwap. And we were seeing a bit of friction and some fall off, and it mostly was something we could solve easily, and we were happy to do that in V2. So people don't have to leave the site anymore. They can easily just add into which pool they want without really having to figure out, now that I'm on PancakeSwap, now that I go back, that's all gone. The other thing to note about V2 is that the emission schedule will last for 5 months. So around September is when the rewards will actually end. And until then, we want people to, ape into the pool, take full advantage of these rewards while they're still available. Every month, the rewards halve. So it's 25 million this month, 12.5 next month, 6.25 thereafter, and it goes on until the end of September. What else? Let's see. One thing about the liquidity mining, and we're waiting for those other single staking pools to come on, is that we had to actually remove the Betty's Cake pool, which was the Pancake WSB pool, and that was mostly due to impermanent loss. There was a bit of volatility, and it was just less also popular, and so we removed that. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So on the whole, this sounds incredibly I think not just promising and exciting, and obviously there's sort of a long tail on this, but also incredible that this was also the result of the community voting on what was best for the project in the long term, and what was best for them as investors in the long term. So yeah, I think this is a wonderful a wonderful sort of like detailed exploration of what's happening in this moment, and what's to come and what's to look forward to. And I'd love to, from there move on with yourself, Jamie, and BTC Vix to discuss the ETP. Where do we stand with that? What's coming at the end of the week? What's coming this weekend? And really, to help the community understand what the unique value of the ETP is and why that's so distinctive to Wall Street Bets.
She muted herself.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if there was a question that was directed there at the end. Or we might have lost her, actually.
Oh, no, I'm here.
Oh, she's here. Yep.
I'm sorry, I might have cut out there for a moment. So yeah, I'd love to talk about the ETP. I'd love for the community to understand what this extraordinary thing is that is about to launch, where we're at in that process, what's happening at the end of this week, what's happening over the weekend with it, in terms of phasing, and to really help, I think, put front and center. I think this is a huge part of the Wall Street Bets vision for this space. I think this is a very much sort of like a first mover product that you guys are doing, and I think to sort of this, we're gonna circle back to this a bit later about talking about why this is such an appealing thing to have through both up cycles and down cycles in the market. But just in terms of the launch of it, to help people understand, the utility of it, and really just how is it going to work? How is it going to work? So everyone really understands how to leverage that.
I thought Baby Yoda was going to take this one.
I apologize. I can. I was just replying to someone in the chat.
Because you've been a little bit more involved in the voting and the methodologies and stuff like that. Why don't you inform the people on everything was asked there?
I'm happy to. Sorry, Venus, do you mind repeating the question?
Yeah, so it's really about jumping into the subject of the ETP. Jumping into, I think it's pretty widely understood that this is something unique, that Wall Street Bets is a first mover on this in terms of the crypto space, and in terms of bringing this type of product into a DeFi space like this. And I think what would be amazing is to just understand what the community can expect in the next couple days, what's coming this weekend, and just the sort of just the fundamental approach to how should they embrace this and get involved, and what are some realistic expectations they should have going forward about what this means for Wall Street Bets and also for their own portfolio.
Oh, awesome. I love this question. Okay, so after today, Farming V2 has gone live. We are actually getting ready now for the first on-chain voting, which means that people with these WSB tokens since launch now have true utility with them. We can vote with them and use our voice to determine the first ETP, which is essentially and don't repeat this, is a decentralized ETF, exchange traded portfolio more accurately. Compliance might not be happy with me about that, but the makeup of the ETP, which was all these 20 coins that over 6,000 people voted on over the last week, are now being put into this blockchain asset that will be traded amongst other blockchain assets, but its value will be composed of Bitcoin, Ether, Maker, Balancer, these top 20 assets. And I think that's really exciting, because if you want exposure to Bitcoin and Ether, and maybe you don't want to manage 20 different coins, you can now just manage one asset. And we're looking forward to launching that after voting, which is going to be probably in the next few days.
So people should be on our gov.wsbdapp.com forum, and people are already discussing in there the makeup. Really like some of the comments, like from floppy drives, who are kind of using their wrinkled brain and putting their thoughts for our community to really discuss. And that's really exciting for us to see as a project and seeing things come to life. And as this discourse, this discussion is going on, we're going to be having the on-chain vote in a few days. And then after the vote, the launch of the first ETP, which we're targeting for early next week.
This sounds amazing. This is so exciting for the community. Jamie, BTC, do you guys have anything you'd like to add to that? I think she did a wonderful job of sort of covering what it is and why it matters.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, this is just another step in the road for trying to iron out the roadmap, right? Obviously, because we are the first of this kind that I'm aware of, we're kind of learning along the way as well, and so it's very logical to start with these incremental steps, right? So we start with the coin release, we start with the farming, we improve the farming, and now we're releasing the first ETP. We had the survey that came out to try and weigh everything down, and then pretty soon we're going to have this next round, and it's limited at this point to cryptocurrencies. Primarily because we want to learn along those way, right? So if there's a better way to, I don't know, present the voting interface, or if there's a better way to communicate the interface with the chatting, or we have to flush all those things out, and it makes the most amount of sense to do it with the lowest hanging fruit.
Mm-hmm.
And I see it, and I see this as just an awesome step, because once we have that, there is just no doubt, and there should be no doubt in anyone's mind that this thing is an actual it's an actual entity that has an effect on the world, right? Like we have the tokens, we have all these things that were set up the way they're supposed to, and then eventually, it's my understanding that these ETPs are going to start producing this 2% annualized fees that are going to go back into the treasury, and then at some point down the line, I don't know how long, I'm guessing it's going to be months down the line, we're going to get together as a group and decide what to do with all that money, right?
Yeah.
That is a company. When I try to describe this to people, I decide to step away from using crypto terms and say, look, this is just a company with shareholders, but this is an actual company with actual shareholders whose voice actually matters, right? Like, how many people have ever voted on any of the shares that they've owned for any company? I'm guessing very few people. In this particular case, it's like everyone, and we all get to decide it as a whole where this thing goes next. The team that's in place right now is making sure it's kind of like pushing the boat off the harbor, putting the sails up and just letting it go. And that's what the team is working on now. But pretty soon, this whole thing is just this autonomous company with shareholders, and I think it's just super cool. And I'm excited to see. I have strong reason to believe that there's there's intelligence in social, I guess, social intelligence. We've seen these things with Wikipedia, with open source projects. Whenever people collaborate, we get really, really great things. And I have a strong reason to believe that we, as a community, are going to create these really kick-ass products, these investment products that are going to range from crazy YOLO, I don't care if I lose my money, to more conservative, well thought out and well researched, and let's fight inflation and some of the boring things. But that's great, because then we'll have all those things out there. And guess what? Now we're just this giant hedge fund without an address, without a name, without, it's just, it exists in the cloud. And that's super exciting. So I see this as a very important symbolic step. Super excited to see how things progress.
Yeah, I think that's so well said. And it really does tap into, this spirit of decentralized finance, and the spirit of blockchain, which I think is so often lost, in this landscape. But this idea that, the traditional financial systems are not inclusive in this way. As an individual, very few people have any ability to influence decisions or outcomes that are happening in those sort of, sweets in the sky. And I think to bring this down to a level where everyone's truly included, everyone has a vote, everyone has influence, and everyone gets to participate in the benefits of that is really embracing and capturing what decentralized finance is all about. And so I think it's important for this community and for everyone here to sort of say this is it's more than just a play. It's more than just an asset class, or it's more than just a transaction. This is actually participating in a much deeper and complex spirit of a new landscape that is not only disrupting traditional finance, but doing it in such a powerful and in such a fast way that it's really probably, I would say, the biggest event to happen, in the financial world in the last several hundred years. And this is a part of it, and I think this is a really meaningful part of that narrative. So I think, hopefully
Absolutely. And look, I was
that.
speaking to this one blogger, I forget her name, Genevieve something or another. I'll get her name by the end of this thing. And she's going to write an article about this and whatnot. And she is this really seasoned, well-known, if you Google her name, you can see she's always on TV, and just a Wall Street insider, if you will. And she knows the ins and outs of the market. She tends to focus on these micro cap things, whatever. The pandemic kind of screwed some things up. She lost $1 million for her family in 2008, and then recovered it and then some in 2009. So she's been around the block. And when I explained to her what it was, like, you could tell from the beginning of the phone call, she was like, "All right, so just tell me what it's about." And she was literally, just to give you an idea, she was literally walking, and I could hear the cars behind her. She goes, I apologize for the noise. I'm doing this like health challenge thing with my watch, is counting my steps, so I'm going to be walking while I do this. I hope you don't mind. And I kind of did mind a little bit, right? Because it's like, it's a little rude, but that's fine, right? So as they started talking, and she's like, "So tell me what this coin is." I'm told I have to be here on this call. And when I explained to her what it was, she stopped walking. I could tell she stopped panting, and she lost her shit. She was like, "Holy crap!" So you guys are creating this organization that's literally, and you could tell the different points all connecting in her head as I was letting her, as I was explaining what this was. So just based off of her reaction, it's excellent validation. I'm looking forward to this article coming out.
Yeah, that's
One point of clarity there that we're talking about. I should say, let me just add a little bit more context and color from kind of the more on the technical end when it comes to ETPs and such like that. Yeah, we we're going with balancer smart pools to begin with, and we decided rather than waiting to have, say, the YOLO Stokes ETP ready as our first ETP. We wanted to do one to show, like, look, we can do this. And the people over at Balancer, the Balancer team has been extremely supportive of us. They're extremely interested in what we're doing. We've had a number of calls with them. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see some kind of announcement coming out with us and Balancer. That doesn't necessarily mean that we're not willing to explore other options like Mir and some of these other protocols that are actually using Binance Smart Chain assets, tokenized stocks or whatever instruments. So that's kind of our like what we're looking at going forward. Balancers also talked about integrating the Binance Smart Chain assets as well in basically their same kind of V2 pools. So the universe is moving pretty quickly, and that would certainly be the preferred method, just because of ERC20 has been a gas guzzler and eats up a lot of fees. So just wanted people to know that it's not. The gears are turning over there, and both Mir and Bouncer we've had talks with, they're very excited for stuff like this. It's like the exact kind of wet dream for them of what they want their pools used for.
Yeah, that's great. And I think something we'll also touch on in a little bit is just the simple concept of exposure and what that means for an investor. I imagine in this community there's probably different styles of investors, whether it's active or passive or maxi or really diverse, broad portfolio of everything from micro cap to macro cap investments. But I think one of the sort of key appeals of this is gaining market exposure through both up cycles and down cycles, and knowing that something's being actively traded in such a way that you can follow the market a bit, even when it's not necessarily advisable to do so in your own broad portfolio, so to speak. But again, I think exposure is something that will sort of feather into a lot of the conversations in here in terms of why it matters, and how you achieve that through the products that Wall Street Bets is offering. So I'd love to sort of shift and just talk to you guys a little bit about what's going on in the general landscape right now, because crypto moves so fast, and it seems like every day there's a significant development. Sometimes those developments affect the market. Sometimes it's more of an indication of growth and what we have to look forward to. But I'd love to get your thoughts on a few different topics that have been circulating, in the news cycle today, and to maybe help people understand how to look at these things, or what they may or may not mean for the future of crypto as an industry. One of the first things that I trust will be exciting for this group is there was a news story that came out yesterday that Reddit, the conversations on Reddit, and the general the sentiment on Reddit has shifted from meme stocks to crypto. This is not unique to one particular Reddit channel. This is encompassing, a much more holistic view of what people are chatting about on Reddit and where people's focus and interest lie on Reddit. I'd love to get your thoughts, given the relevance to this project, on what that means for the landscape of crypto and what that means for the future of Reddit.
Who's you?
Jamie, BTC Fix, Baby Yoda, you're all on deck. But Jamie, I'm going to ask you to go first.
Yeah, so it's obvious. It's like, duh, right? I sent a tweet of that article going out saying, like, you can either be an innovator or something like a visionary, or you can just be left behind, like Blockbuster. It's a no-brainer. Like, I am going to reach out to one of the biggest subreddits in the crypto space to see if we can set up something, right? In a way that I'm going to endorse crypto, in a way that I'm also going to accept a mistake that I made of not paying attention to it earlier. I profoundly believe I made a mistake with sidelining the power of crypto, and that was just obvious. So that's why I'm saying duh, right? Like, it makes perfect sense. And at some point, we're going to have a conversation where it's not just crypto is starting to get more comments or more subscribers or whatever. At some point, the conversation is people are talking about finance, and in those finance communities, they're going to be talking about everything involved, and you're not going to have this definition, this change, this categorization of this is blockchain stuff, this is where you do blockchain stuff, and that's where you do stock stuff. They're going to all just be part of the financial world, and the financial institutions on a macro level will be doing this as well. We see it more and more frequently. We see Wells Fargo, we see JP Morgan, we see Goldman Sachs, we see all these big guys starting to get on this crypto train because they realize there is no turning back, and they might as well be ahead. And then you're starting to see China do their thing, and I won't get into that because it's too much of a tangent. But nevertheless, they're using the blockchain technology to do stuff, right? And so that's promising, regardless of how good or bad what they're trying to do really is. In fact, I'll go ahead to that sideline for just a second. It's kind of cool because China's figured out how to weaponize this thing, right? So kind of sucks for people, but it's kind of cool that it's just the best endorsement ever, right? Now you're talking about governments saying this is actually something we need to take into consideration. So it makes sense that more people are talking about crypto than stocks on Reddit. Probably the reason why is the stocks communities were there first, right? And then crypto's been slowly but surely growing, and obviously it's bigger. I did a poll on my Twitter one time because I'll make these jokes, and sometimes I realize people may not have gotten the joke based off of the comments or whatever. And so after I made a joke, I don't remember what it was. I was like, I wonder if people are that follow me are even equities people. And so I put a poll that says, hey, are you like, it was something like, do you prefer crypto or stocks? And the answers were like, fuck crypto. And the other one says, go home, boomer. Right. And 75% of the people answered, go home, boomer. Right. So I was baffled. I mean, not surprised because people weren't really understanding my humor, but then I understood why they weren't understanding my humor. They were just from a different world. So I think that it's really, really big. And the best possible outcome is not necessarily the crypto trumps the traditional Wall Street, but the crypto just becomes part of the same conversation.
Right. Are you surprised at all by how quickly crypto has gone from something no one was really talking about last year outside of those, somewhat of a closed community to something that, ladies who lunch are talking about, relatives are talking about? In terms of how quickly these developments are happening, is it surprising to you, or does it feel like par for the course?
No, I mean, I'm willing to bet anything you want that if you want to bring up the chatter on crypto, the mom's talking about it while getting their nails done or whatever, or people searching for it on Google. I'm sure you can even do this right now. You go on Google Trends and you search it. I'm 99% sure that the chatter is going to mimic the stock price of Bitcoin. Sorry, the price of Bitcoin. Yeah. We had a lot of chatter in 2017, 2018, when it reached 20,000 for the first time. And then it was just mute, nobody talking about anything. And then all of a sudden got back to 20,000 and then it's been going up and up and up. And so then everyone talks about it. Then it went down. So people keep talking about it. So I am not surprised that people are talking about it just because it's just going along with the price. Obviously there's a correlation causation thing here as well. But what I'm super looking forward to is for people to stop talking about crypto in a sense that it's just an investment. Like I'm annoyed by Dogecoin, as I'm sure most people are annoyed by these meme pump and dumps or whatever. But we need to allow for those things to exist because you can't have a democratic, fully functioning market unless you have crappy participants as well. So I'm thankful that they exist because they'll serve as valuable learning lessons. But what I'm looking forward to is for people to start talking about crypto as a functional part of their life, not just let's try to find the next bet that's going to make me 110x, whatever. And for people to say, look, I'm happy with having my Ethereum 2.0 with the staking, with the 5% APR or whatever. I don't know what people keep talking about. That's cool to me because then you see the European Union starting to issue bonds on the Ethereum network. And that's super cool to me, right? And all of a sudden you start seeing these DAO organizations. Those are the conversations I'm really going to look forward to. And I don't think that they're as mainstream as they will be in the not so distant future.
I think, just to circle back to the GameStop doing the NFT stuff. First of all, I'm like, hey, when do you guys want a partnership? And by the way, it's not a forward-looking statement, but certainly they're aware of everything that's going on, in the world, and they're willing to move into that and to gamify it and do other kinds of things that maybe they kind of, I think we all thought they got passed up, and maybe they did, and now they're catching up and trying to get on the cutting edge and the leading edge of what's going on in finance and the markets and stuff like that. But one very interesting thing, I brought it up a couple times, but there actually is the ability to take an NFT and to basically pixelate it into, say, I don't know, the equivalent of a million shares of this particular NFT. And then through that, we could, as the project, or just in general, if somebody like Beeple or whoever bought Beeple's painting decided, hey, $65 million worth, the demand now is I could probably sell for 85 million, and he could try and pixelate it, and then people could provide liquidity to these such pools, and we could actually include NFTs into some of these ETP portfolios. I think that's it's kind of a little bit out there. I'm not saying that's going to happen next month, but I think that's something that could end up happening with some of these very well-known NFTs that people are really hot for.
Yeah, I mean, NFTs, it's funny how they sort of jump to the front of the line in the popular consciousness of the thing everyone's trying to figure out right now. I think I've had more people ask me about NFTs than ask me about Bitcoin in the last month, in terms of what they're trying to get their arms around. But I think we're going to start to see more indication. Quite speculative, but I think that it's tapping into something that's more exciting for a lot of people than perhaps just a straightforward token. So I think it's definitely a meaningful part of the dialogue and a meaningful piece of a portfolio once we kind of understand exactly what the right thing is there. But I also want to come back to something. I don't want this to get lost in the mix, which is GameStop announcing yesterday that they are entering the crypto space with an NFT, and GameStop obviously being, a very, very traditional stock, of a very, I don't want to say outdated company, but certainly a dated company that has struggled to keep up with the times in terms of its business model that has been, obviously the subject of much news coverage and much scrutiny at the same time. But interestingly, has been so anchored and troubled by the fact that they are so anchored to this old way of doing things, that have suddenly taken this step forward to say, no, we are a gaming company and we do want to be part of whatever this new thing is that's happening. What given how much spotlight has been on them for the last couple of months, I don't think anyone talked about them until the last couple of months. What do you think that means for crypto? What message do you think that sends to people that might be investing in their traditional stock offering?
I think you need to start directing your questions to someone.
Okay, Jamie, Jamie, you take that.
Nah, look, I don't have a really strong opinion one way or the other. Like, I think once again, it's just another bit of evidence that these things are all coming together. You have, first you have the financial institutions, and now you have the gaming company, and so it just so happens that they're in the spotlight because of this meme stock trading generation demographic of people. I think it's a brilliant move on their hand, because once again, anyone that's sidelining crypto right now is just making a mistake, to put it lightly. And it's logical for them to move into this space, and it's logical for anybody else that wants to go into space. Look, my brother's like an entrepreneurial guy at her. He's got a lot of things going on, but one of the things that he does is like a lot of kitchen businesses, like restaurant type stuff, and he opens them all the time. And after I've gotten involved with him, I spent so much time talking to him about it. And he is the ultimate, even though he's younger than me, he's in his mid-30s. He's a boomer like nobody else. He's so traditional. He's got so many master's degrees in finance and in business, and he's really just whatever. And so he was an ignorer of crypto until I opened his eyes towards it. And he's so fascinated by it. He spent like an entire week figuring out how to retrofit all of his point of sale stuff to accept crypto, right? Like, and this was without any benefit to me or anything else. It was just opening his eyes and getting him to understand things that he just, most people just get stuck with what's the price of Dogecoin today? And that's where they leave, and they don't understand the complexity. So that's super promising. So look, GameStop wants to get into NFTs. Great. I'm not going to lie. I don't fully understand or appreciate, more like I understand what the NFTs are, but I don't appreciate it as much as I know that I should be able to. And it's because I haven't given it the time of day. And I know this is the case because you know what? I was on a podcast with Jordan Belfort. He's the actual Wolf of Wall Street, and he's yet to put that out yet. I don't know why. It's taken him like a month so far. Every Thursday I got my fingers crossed, and I'm hoping tomorrow. But nevertheless, towards the end of this conversation, first I start talking about crypto, because obviously I was plugging the Wsbdapp, and I was expecting resistance from him because he's historically been a huge critic of crypto, but he was really embracing of it, surprisingly, not just because I was a guest, but he just. And then towards the end of and then he even asked me at the end, like, what do you think the price of Bitcoin is going to be by the end of this year, blah, blah, blah. But he made one question about NFTs, which really baffled me. He goes, so what is your take on NFTs? And I was more surprised that Jordan Belfort is asking me about NFTs than the actual question itself, right? Like, had anybody else asked me that? So I didn't really have a good answer for him. But that to me was yet another signal that there's something big there. So I'm glad GameStop's getting into it. I hope every company figures out how to use the blockchain technology in whatever way serves them best, whether it's NFTs, whether it's being able to settle these things, settle contracts or having smart contracts or settle transactions is what I meant to say, or whether it's a medium of exchange of goods and services, or whether it's just whatever, So
Yeah.
I think everyone's going to.
Great. Well put. And I love that Jordan.
If I may add something.
Part of it. Yes, please.
Just on the GameStop NFT thing, I saw that on Superstonk and I was so confused. I was like, what subreddit am I on? Because they're traditionally not crypto, right? They were calling attention for crypto apes, which I thought was so fascinating. And throughout the whole day, there was just multiple threads on Superstonk about this GameStop NFT thing. And I was super excited because these folks aren't really crypto folks. And the way that, like they're not going to be on Pancake Swap. And so it just shows that things are really changing. And I'm really excited about what this means for the future of the industry. And we're all working towards this like moment where there's this normalization of crypto and fiat. And I don't think we're there yet, but we're on that road. And I don't know how close we are, but I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, it's becoming a thing that, even people who want to ignore it can't ignore it. And it feels that every time someone, high profile comes out, recently was Ray Dalio. It's like, oh, I own a little bit of Bitcoin. How long have you owned it for, Ray? Because 3 years ago, there are a lot of really high profile people changing their position on it, which I think is giving permission for even the less high profile people and the more sort of like retail level industry to just very quietly change their position as well. But it seems obvious that crypto is now a thing that is so in your face that nobody can ignore it. Not everyone can figure it out overnight. I think if you've gotten this far, you're ahead of the curve. But it is really probably one of the most important conversations about what's happening in the world right now. And it sounds hyperbolic, but I don't think it's hyperbolic when you look at something like the COVID crisis dominating headlines for a year, and India being the current epicenter of that, and more money was donated from crypto projects than any other industry in the world.
Yeah, it's definitely a change of like people are more at home now. They're in front of their computers all the time. Plus, like the global financial economy, they're like people I think are just looking at what is really out there. And blockchain has been in the news, and now NFTs, and maybe Wsbdapp next.
And to that point, I would love to ask BTC Vix, can you speak to us about what's happening in Miami, and tell us a bit about this Wall Street Bets event that's going to be happening in Miami?
Yeah, so I guess we haven't really disclosed it to the community yet, and I guess now we will. And by the way, the Eventbrite invite stuff's probably coming out tomorrow. We have to get our banner done, but so don't send me a billion messages asking to get an invite to the party. It'll all happen. It's just we need about 24 hours to get the banner ready, make sure that it's ready and stuff like that. But basically, the details are. So we're going to be doing a Wall Street Bets after party for the Bitcoin or the Miami Bitcoin conference. So you don't have to go to the Miami Bitcoin conference to be a part of the Wall Street Bets Miami after party. The after party will be from 6 to 10 p.m. at the Frost Museum, which is pretty close to the convention center of where the conference is held. Jamie, I believe you are going to make an appearance there, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy what I'm having to do to make it happen. But yeah, I will be there. I'm literally flying in. I think my flight lands at like 11-ish, and then I leave next morning first thing. So I will be there for sure. Super excited about being able to just participate. To be able to watch a little bit of this the conference itself. I've seen the roster of really impressive people that are going to be there. So whoever I get a chance to see speak, I'll be really thankful about. And then the party I'm really excited about as well. So I'm definitely going to be there.
Yeah, so the party begins kind of right around the end of the conference day, kind of more of like a happy hour time slot, and it's a free event. It's just we're limiting it to 150 total people. We have a co-sponsor with us. I just blanked on their name, but they're actually doing and they're an NFT company. And during the event, we will have a live auction, live NFT auction. If any of the people here that were a part of the meme contest and were one of the 5 that won that contest, Meme Farm is minting those into NFTs. We're doing, there's going to be 2 NFTs. One of them will send to you. The other one we're going to auction off, hopefully for charity. That's our plan. But there'll be some other stuff within the auction. The particular auction house does a lot of vintage, like rare Pepe stuff. So there'll be like some Shilberts in there and some other things like that. But Theo Goodman, who runs the auction, is the auctioneer. So you'll actually be doing live auctioneering of those NFTs off during the event. And I should also mention it's the event not only is free, but it's open bar with premium spirits, as well as some kind of hand hors d'oeuvres and stuff during that period of time. So we look
I
forward
can't
to
believe I'm
anybody that
missing this.
yeah, we look forward to anybody that is in Miami or will be in Miami during that time, which is Friday the 4th, I think. Friday the 4th of next week. 6 to 10 p.m. local time at the Frost Museum. Invite sent tomorrow, or you'll be able to use the Eventbrite tomorrow. So
Amazing. Well, that's a fun thing for anyone here who can get to Miami or can or can join virtually. Thank you. Is there anything else you guys, and this is BTC, Jamie, Baby Yoda, is there anything else you'd like to share with the community in this moment before I open it up for a couple questions from the audience?
No, bring on the questions. But on that last point about the party, will you be streaming it? I don't know if I spaced out there, because if you're not, that's a great idea.
I mean, in terms of if anybody wants to stream it, that's up to them. I didn't have anything
Get a
ready
hashtag going for it or something, so
Yeah.
that people can upload to social media.
Probably could do that. Yeah, probably could do that on Twitter. Yeah.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, we're really sorry to hear that that you're stuck. Yeah. Yeah, so we have a few, a little bit of time to take a few questions. These guys are all hardworking in the background, and it's a launch of a new product day, so we don't want to keep them too long. But yeah, we'd love to start if anyone's got a question for them.
Usually, how we. Okay, go ahead. Otherwise, some of the people are unmuted, but I know I'll unmute. There's 3 people with their hands up. Usually, that's kind of the way I like to prompt it too. But right now, we have a number of people that are unmuted, so we can start with them.
I have a question with the ETP. I remember I read the Medium, it says ETP portfolio holder also has the right of way for voting, same as WSB token holders. So is it a 1-to-1 ratio of their voting versus WSB token holders?
I can take this one. That's correct. So previously we had announced that the WSB Gov token would be for rebalancing, and then over the course of the last month, talking to the community, working with developers, not only will you need WSB token, but now you'll need the ETP token to rebalance, which makes so much sense. If you're holding the ETP, you want to have the say in rebalancing. And it would be a one-to-one. And it also includes anyone who's already in the farming pools, but that you'll need liquidity pool tokens. So if you're single staking, unfortunately, it won't necessarily count if you're not holding WSB.
Oh, so you could actually vote if you I saw that on the interface that you could actually vote if you stake your
Yes.
token. So if you stake it in Diamond Hand, like you said, you can't vote, or you could vote.
In Diamond Hands, you can because you're holding WSB tokens. But if the other single pools that are coming out, the Binance USD and the BNB, it wouldn't allow a vote for those ones. But thank you so much for this question.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thanks, Baby Yoda. Do we have any more questions from the community?
Yeah, can I ask a question? Do we use the WSB tokens to invest in the ETPs?
I
Pretty
can
sure
help
you
with
don't.
Yeah, to Jamie's point, the first ETPs are actually going to be on Ethereum. And so WSB being on Binance Smart Chain, we're looking at how you can use Wall Street Bet token to involve in the ETP. So far is just by voting, and you'll need Ether to purchase the ETP itself.
Hi guys, could I ask a question, please?
Sure.
There's been a lot of chat in the governance chat room, which I really like, by the way. I think it's a great message board. A lot of people, so there's been, I think the most engaged chat on there was around how to spend the 2% management fee. And then I think the main topic of discussion within that is spending it on promotions and marketing on things like TikTok and Twitter and with YouTube, video makers. Have you guys got any plans? So obviously the vote could be done for the 2% management fee to do that. Is there any plans for the project to engage like TikTok influencers and YouTube influencers just in general, separate from spending the 2% management fee on that? I'm asking just as that seems to be the main topic of discussion in that. Thank you.
I can take this one again. So the short answer is yes, absolutely. We've actually been working with a marketing manager that has been full-time with us now for over just close to 2 weeks. And their first kind of priority was setting up a TikTok campaign. So the first few videos that we had done were kind of not as high quality as we would have liked. And the next batch are looking really awesome. And sorry, I'm walking. So the next batch are looking really awesome, and we're super excited to kick things off. But it's not just TikTok. We're talking about a whole content marketing plan. We're talking about, ongoing podcasts like this one every week with Venus, and it's a huge endeavor that took time, and we're really excited to start.
Awesome.
I have a quick question. Regarding the auto compounding, I think I heard that mentioned, but I'm not sure how that works. I thought I heard Baby Yoda mention the claim rewards button, but that's not really auto compounding as I understand it.
Yes, good catch. So during the development, we uncovered that people have to actually unstake first and then re-up to compound. So that's how you have to do it right now.
Okay, so there's not really a auto compounding as I've seen in other projects.
It's something that I've definitely asked for, and due to the timeline, this is kind of what we were able to get out. And I think that rather than just going to PancakeSwap and dividing up everything, like we've allowed people to automatically add back in, but they have to unstake first.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
I think we have time for one more question before we wrap it up. Does anyone have anything?
I have an interesting theory. So I was chatting with a guy earlier, since the pool says die in hand, but the exit fee is so little, so everybody could just exit like anytime they want and sell it out. So there's a conflict of name of diamond hands when people just get out so fast and so cheap, how would that be called diamond hands?
That's a funny question.
That's a funny question.
Yeah,
talking
what would you want? I mean, we could call it the Safe Moon liquidity pool, where we charge, I don't know what they do, but like 10% if you wanted. But yeah, it's just a marketing thing. Look, it's a symbolic thing. Like the fact is that the moment that you're going to get charged with something, it's that typical. Do you want that extra guac when you go to Chipotle because it's an extra 75 cents or whatever it is, and you're like, no, I don't want to pay more for it. Like it just plays into that head. I think that we're just giving people the ability to have that flexibility with that just mental block, and it's a slap on the wrist. We're not draconian. Like the thing with Safe Moon is it's like a gimmick, right? Like they want to really punish you to get out. Therefore, it's really, a diamond hand situation. But we're not relying on forcing people to keep their coins in order for this thing to be awesome, right? Like we're so much better focused on making people want to keep these tokens because they see the true value in it more than just a punishment for getting out. And I think it goes in the spirit of how we do everything.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, it was funny question he proposed, and like he and I was just talking about it.
It's very existential. I think we're gonna have to wrap up for today, guys. We've got so much work to do in the background, and obviously there's a lot of activity happening right now around the new staking pool. Thank you guys for showing up. Thank you for tuning into this. It's going to be exciting to continue this dialogue next week. And to Jamie, to BTC Vix, to Baby Yoda, thank you for being here to answer everyone's questions head on and to add some depth and dimension to all of the developments going on with this project.
Thank you very much for putting this together. This was awesome.
Thank you so
I hope
much.
that everyone enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Thank you. And can I ask one question, please?